the space shuttles take off from Kennedy Space Center with awe and fascination. As we see non-astronauts go into space now, even on the quick trips that Richard Branson's company and Jeff Bezos' company launched, we think about if we want to go to space. Do you want to go to space? And some of us also see those flames at liftoff and think about all that fuel that's propelling that complex vessel into space and powering it on its journey. But what if there was a way to build those rocket ships so they were carbon neutral? Well, today we're going to talk to a woman who is leading a company that is doing just that. They say they are making space travel carbon neutral. So let's find out more. Welcome to Electric Ladies Podcast. We bring you insights and tips from remarkably innovative women about corporate responsibility, energy and sustainability, and ESG-related issues. I'm your host, Joan Michelson. We talk about innovation, leadership, technologies, and careers, always bringing a new perspective. We also give career advice in every episode, especially towards the end, but it's often sprinkled throughout our conversations if you listen closely too. Find us anywhere you like to listen to podcasts, on our website, electricladiespodcast.com, and through my Forbes blog as well. And please pass it on to your friends. And if you are so inclined, please leave us a 5-star review. It helps other people find us. And one more point, if you are struggling with your own career, especially at this wild time, please reach out to me on Twitter and let me know. We can help you no matter what industry you're in. So if you're hearing ambient sound, that's because today we are coming to you live from the Climate Leadership Gala in Washington, D.C., the beautiful Mayflower Hotel. This grand event celebrates talented change makers who are helping the planet address climate change and protect people. This event, produced by Earth Day Network, marks different milestones the climate movement has achieved over the past year and inspires everyone to do more, as well as celebrating these change makers. After all, Mother Earth is not waiting for us to get our act together. We got to keep the train on track, right? I've attended this event almost every year it's been held, and full disclosure, I was acting VP of Marketing Communications at Earth Day Network quite a while ago, so I know these folks quite well. One of the people who is speaking today is this innovator I've been talking about, who I want you to meet. Let's find out about carbon neutral space travel. I'd like you to meet Jane Poynter, founder and co-CEO of Space Perspective. Jane has been in space exploration essentially her whole career, from what I can tell. Prior to founding Space Perspective, she co-founded and was CEO of Worldview Enterprises, another private near space exploration and technology company. And she was co-founder of Paragon Space Development Corporation, a designer and manufacturer of hazardous environment life support equipment. We'll find out what that actually really is. She was one of the scientists, interestingly enough, who founded the famed Biosphere 2. Anybody remember Biosphere 2? The closed ecological system. And she was one of its original crew members. I think she lived on it for 2 years and 20 minutes or something interesting like that. So without further ado, please join me in saying welcome to Jane Poynter to Electric Ladies Podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. It is definitely my pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. So I'm totally fascinated by what you're doing with reducing the carbon footprint of space exploration. It's kind of mind-boggling, actually. I told you when we were getting ready that I actually have some personal affiliation to this because my great-great-uncle is the C in E equals MC squared. He literally measured the speed of light. And so anything to do with space, I just my whole body just tingles. It's just amazing. So first of all, explain exactly what Space Perspective does, or maybe is trying to do.
So Space Perspective is really making space accessible to unprecedented numbers of people, right? So to date, only 650 people have ever been to space. All of those have been on rockets. We are taking people to space in large numbers. We use a completely different kind of vehicle. There's no high Gs. There's none of the rigor and training needed when you go on a rocket flight. We use an enormous space balloon.
Wow, a space balloon.
So you're into physics.
Yes.
So we use buoyancy. We literally have this enormous balloon that lifts a pressurized capsule for 8 people and a captain up through the atmosphere, up to the edge of space where it sits. It takes about 2 hours to get up. And there it is on top of the atmosphere for a couple of hours where you see the splendor of the cosmos, the deep, deep, deep black sky that people talk about. It's like the deepest black you've ever seen, and the stars. And then you look down on the planet from that vantage point with that iconic paper-thin blue line of our atmosphere that is this, like the color of the jacket I'm wearing, which is teal, this bright teal color, with the sun in that sky. And, you know, by all accounts, as astronauts talk about this experience of seeing Earth from that vantage point, it's transformational for them. They really bond with the planet, and not just the planet, but all of its inhabitants. They really see it as something like a spaceship that we all inhabit together. And it's that experience that I want to give people.
Oh, I love that. And they really see it as magic, you know, that it even exists. So how is your balloon different from, say, a hot air balloon? I mean, it sounds like it's a cross between a space shuttle and a hot air balloon.
So it is quite different in that this is a gas balloon. So this balloon, you know, if you think about the balloon when it's all the way up at altitude, when it's fully inflated, is a giant round ball that is the size of a football stadium.
Wow.
It is that big.
Okay. That's
what it takes to lift a capsule up through the atmosphere to space. So if the entire flight is about 6 hours long. So it's 2 hours up, 2 hours at the top, and 2 hours back down. And you splash in the ocean where a ship awaits you. It picks the capsule up out of the water, puts you on, and brings everybody ashore.
How far up do you actually go?
So we go about 20 miles.
Okay.
So you have, in essence, the same view that you would have if you were on the other companies' vehicles that you talked about, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, on those vehicles, just for a very long time, and you are there very gently. And let me also add that you are in a space lounge. So we really wanted to reimagine space, right? I mean, we really want to make this accessible for so many people. So it's physically accessible, it's emotionally accessible. What we find, and we've sold over 1,200 tickets already.
Wow, how much are they?
They're $125,000 a ticket. So we've sold 1,200, and almost half of those have been bought as entire flight buyouts. So people want to go with their loved ones. They want to go with their families. So we wanted to create an environment in there where you could really have it almost like a community feel in there and just hang out.
Have a shared experience.
So we have a bar on board. There's a loo.
Do the drinks like float? I mean,
we're in a 1G environment. We're not in a micro-G environment.
Okay.
You could get that on an airplane. For example, you can go on a zero-G airplane and get that experience. We really wanted to separate out all the experiences because microgravity is actually quite uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it can rearrange your body parts internally. So I think I read somewhere that you only need to be as physically fit as you would for a normal commercial flight.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
that's exactly right.
Okay. So what makes it carbon neutral? I think I read that you're using renewable hydrogen, for example.
So what
makes it carbon neutral?
Yeah, so when you think about how a rocket launches, right, it uses enormous amounts of energy to get up with brute force up out of the gravity well. What we're doing is using buoyancy. So it's, to begin with, incredibly low energy. There's no moving parts. It just lifts itself. So it's the gas itself just lifts it. We're not burning anything. We're not doing any of that.
Wow.
And so it's also a plug-in electric spaceship. So the capsule itself is basically, think of it as an electric car, only it is a spaceship. So we plug it in and power it up before we launch. And then you're right, inside the balloon, what gives it that lift is what's called a lift gas. So you can either use helium or hydrogen. Well, helium is completely unobtainium and is really not good to use now because you'd be in competition with MRIs and other medical equipment, right? So hydrogen is amazing. It's, really coming online with a hydrogen economy. So we're using hydrogen that is also made from renewable energy. So the entire thing is in this incredible cycle. And then we also operate the company as a carbon neutral company. So sadly, we still have to use energy in the company. So we end up doing offsets, which is not perfect by any means, but it is a tool that we have to use. And so we partnered with Cool Effects to offset. And most recently, we used mangroves. And the way I think about using offsets is I love it and I think they're incredible when they do more than one thing. So when you think about it, mangroves, they're sequestering our carbon at a very high rate. They're also protecting our coastlines. They're creating habitat. They're creating nurseries for fish. They're cleaning the atmosphere's water. Yeah, let's cheer for mangroves if you can all hear that in the background.
Right.
So that's how I also think about offsets, is to really have them do something additional as well as being additional themselves for the carbon cycle.
Oh, I love that. And it's funny that it's like they were cheering on cue there. What about the actual, what the ship is made of? I mean, are you using like any kind of recycled steel or recycled aluminum, or are there any sustainability strategies that are going into the actual spaceship itself?
Right. So aside from all of the energy that is used in the spaceship, as being electricity, we do everything we can to use, we're on the grid, right? So we use everything we can in that regard. But on the interior itself, the materials on the interior in the Space Lounge, absolutely, those are all being made with either sustainable in the nature of how they're made, or they're recycled. So we're also upcycling some of the balloon material. Our entire spaceship is reused except the material that the balloon is made of. So we recycle that, but we're also looking at different ways to upcycle that material. One of them is we actually are using them to build out the interior of our spaceship. So our spaceship is made of space balloon, which is really pretty cool.
So it's a circular, there's no waste on the space balloon part.
Yeah.
How did you come up with this? How did you and your partner is
Timber McCallum.
Yeah,
Timber McCallum is my co-founder, co-CEO, and we have been working together and life partners together for 35 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, our entire careers. So we really started together on this journey at the project that you mentioned right at the beginning of our careers, which was Biosphere 2. So think of Biosphere as the world's first human-made biosphere. And inside it is a miniature rainforest, a savanna, an ocean, a marsh, a desert where we grew our food and where we lived. And it was, at the time when we were inside it, it was sealed tighter than the International Space Station.
Oh my God.
So everything that we had in there was all we had. And so all our water recycled over and over again. We had mangroves in there, so the water went through the mangroves and all the other plants. We breathed the same oxygen from all the plants around us over and over again. The CO2 that we exhaled went into the food that we grew. We ate so many sweet potatoes that we literally turned orange, so we were becoming visibly part sweet potato. So we had this kind of incredible exchange with our biosphere, and we also could see the edges of our world, right? The glass and the steel structure that it was made of. And this experience really made us, at a very visceral level, understand deeply that we are all living lives part of a biosphere right here on planet Earth. And it turns out that that is a very similar experience to the one that astronauts have. They just see it from the outside looking in. They look at they're in space looking down, and they see the edges of the world. That's that thin blue line against that stark blackness of the vacuum of space, which the vacuum of space is completely hostile to life. And it is protected there, inside. You think that thin blue line of atmosphere is only 20 miles thick. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, right? And we're down here in this biosphere. So when we were in there, we're like, we need everybody to have this same kind of experience. Not everybody's going to want to live in a biosphere. Let's take them all to space and have that incredible experience. So that was sort of the journey that we've been on to bring us here.
That's so interesting. And what I love about what you're saying is that the experience, the perspective that you got, and you and Tabor got from being in Biosphere 2 about the magic of Earth, the limitations of Earth, the finite resources of Earth, and also, frankly, it sounds like the creativity you can do with those resources on your own is also kind of carrying over onto the other side of those 20 miles on the thin blue line. So it's really interesting to me that you're trying to give people the perspective that you got in Biosphere 2, and in part so they will take better care of this planet
Absolutely.
that we have.
No, absolutely. I mean, you know, the astronauts very often will say something akin to, you know, I thought I was going to space to explore the unknown, and as well, I discovered Earth.
Oh, I love that.
And that's really what we did inside Biosphere 2.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of external noise, but we'll figure it out. This is a very capital-intensive business. Yeah, how are you funding all this?
Oh, yeah. So we're a venture capital-backed company.
You are? Okay.
Oh, yeah. So some of our investors are Prime Movers Lab. They're a deep tech investor group. Lightshed, who really focuses on consumer companies and media, because we're an experience company, right?
Right, you're an experience company.
We're an experience company.
Yeah.
So you can think of us as a space company, of course, because we're taking people to space, but really we're an experience company.
That's interesting. I saw that, for example, you hired a guy to recently who comes from creating experiences in the hospitality industry, and so that totally follows.
Yeah, our COO, we very intentionally did not have the COO of the company from a normal aerospace company, right? He is from Vice Media. He ran Vice Media for 15 years,
Oh,
so
wow.
he brings a completely different perspective to this company.
I love that, and that's an interesting thing, because one of the things that I focus on in innovation is that we need different thinkers. It's like all these, I spent many years in corporate America, and a lot of times they say, you know, it's a love-hate thing. We want innovation, we want new ideas, we want this, but don't change this, and don't change that, and don't change this, and don't change that. And so I wonder if the companies like yours have the luxury of being in control yourself, of being able to go out and get unusual talent. You know, people who, like the normal people in corporate America would say, well, we're only going to fund this if you put somebody from Boeing in there, or you put somebody from NASA in there, or whatever, right? So how do you negotiate that with your funders? Do you have anybody that do they push back on you? Do they, because it's, you know, it's their money on the line, right? How do they deal with that?
Yeah, so obviously I'm not on the investor side, but I can certainly say that our investors deeply believe in the vision. And look, what is an investor investing in at the end of the day? It's the team.
Yeah.
It's all about the team. I mean, you've got to have a vision for the future.
Right.
But it's the team, and it's the caliber of the team. And we really have an unbelievable team. So I mentioned Josie Simon, who is our COO, who ran Vice Media. Our head of marketing was the senior VP of marketing for Vice. The person who is doing the structure of our capsule did all of the composite structure for SpaceX's Dragon capsule, Falcon 9. The person who's doing all of our marine operations, standing all of that up, did that for SpaceX's capsule retrieval. The person who's building all of our space balloons did that for many years for NASA. The person who's launching all our balloons has flown more balloons than any person in history. Wow. All over the world. So that's the caliber of people.
So you're bringing in a mix of people who have the industry expertise and people who come from another industry but have the expertise and the ideas that you want to bring in.
And it's ideas. So I think diversity is a big word.
Yeah.
And diversity is everything.
Yes, I agree.
And it's diversity of thought, it's diversity of industry, it's diversity of culture, right? It's all of those. It's diversity of gender, it's everything.
Even style, right? Yeah. Even style and how you go about thinking about things. I could talk to you for about 2 weeks, but tell us a little bit. I'm going to ask you one more thing, and then we like to get career advice for mid-career women. So tell us what the Pale Blue Dot initiative is that you're doing with Earth Day that you announced.
Yeah, so we, some months ago, approached Andrian, who is astronomer Carl Sagan's widow, but also was longtime collaborator, and requested to license the Pale Blue Dot, that iconic speech of Carl's when he requested NASA, he begged NASA to turn the Voyager vehicle around to look at Earth just as it was approaching the edge of the solar system. And the vehicle captured that incredible image of that tiny pale blue dot in what looked like sort of these rays of sunbeam. And from that, he wrote this incredible speech about everything that is humanity and life being on this planet, the only home we've ever known. And so we asked her, can we use that? And I can't tell you how thankful I am that she said yes, because she so believes in what we're doing. And we're the only third company that she said yes to.
Wow.
Which, so we feel deeply privileged. Because it speaks to who we are as a company and what we're trying to accomplish. I mean, it is exactly that experience that we want people to have when they go to space. So we've licensed that. We turned it in this beautiful brand spot that is, I think, really deeply moving. It's very on point with Earth Day. We're super excited about a partnership with Earth Day Network. They have this enormous reach around the world. And it's this message, right? And in fact, in part, Earth Day was galvanized by that very first image that came back from space of our planet in space.
Yeah, I was thinking about that picture that I think it was Neil Armstrong took actually on that flight or one of the astronauts, and it was just, and they took it almost not quite accidentally, but didn't realize what it was going to become.
Earthrise.
Earthrise
is the picture you're thinking of.
Yeah,
exactly.
It inspires everybody. So before I let you go, I like to get career advice for mid-career women. And you've made such extraordinary choices and had such extraordinary opportunities. If you think about a woman who is maybe 15 years into her career, educated, has experience, knows what she's good at, wants to use all of that to make a difference in the world. Not just, she wants to make money, she wants to advance, and she wants to make a difference. So what advice would you give her?
Wow, there are so many ways to make a difference, right? That's a very big question. You can make a difference even within the company you're in with the other women, your other team members, right? You can really be a mentor within and a leader within your group. So there's huge impact that you can have there. If you're looking for environmental impact, well, that there's so many different ways to do that. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you have to be true to yourself. And what is it that fires you up? And what is it that does light that fire within you that you have to pursue, that you're driven to pursue, and then go pursue it. And sometimes it takes going in at a level that maybe you don't feel is your level. Maybe it's beneath you. But if you're trying to move into a slightly adjacent career, you have to do that because you have to work your way up sometimes. And it's also the best way to learn. I mean, it was amazing. We had one guy come to Space Perspective, who really, really, really wanted a job with us because he just was so excited about what we're doing. And this guy he's an incredible talent. But for some reason, he wasn't getting heard through the normal process. So he went and took a day job within the company, did some kind of menial tasks for a few weeks. We suddenly discovered him. And now he is has a major role within the company working on our reserve descent systems. So, I mean, it's really important that you really find what is meaningful for you.
And find your entry point and build
find
from
an entry
there.
point,
Yeah.
because it may not be linear.
Right.
I mean, my career has definitely not been linear.
And I think that's probably true of a lot of innovators. I mean, mine has jumped around as well. And so I think that when you're a creative thinker, you have different vectors you use to make your decisions, you know?
Yeah, and let's also be real. Not everybody is a risk taker.
That's right.
And you have to know if you are or not. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not really comfortable with being uncomfortable, then make a difference where you are.
Right. What kind of risk you're comfortable with. Everybody has their...
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Well, I could talk to you for, again, about 4 days, but any final thoughts before I let you get back to the festivities here?
Well, sure. Come and find out more about us at spaceperspective.com. I could talk about this topic all day because I'm so proud of the team that's doing this. We'll be flying commercially around the end of 2024, so we're getting very close. We're getting back into test flights later this year. That's going to be super exciting. In the beginning, they'll be uncrewed, and then we'll get into crewed test flights leading into our human flight. So please check us out. Check us out on all your socials and come and say hi. We're on the Space Coast.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today on Electric Ladies Podcast. Jane Poynter, founder and co-CEO of Space Perspective. So, do you want to go to space? What do you think of carbon neutral space travel? Send us any ideas that you have with your name, of course, on Twitter at Joan Michelson, and any questions for Jane. And you may win a complimentary 30-minute coaching session with me. And please subscribe to our mailing list to stay abreast of our talented, amazing guests like Jane, our blogs, and career advice. You can subscribe on our website, electricladiespodcast.com. I'm Joan Michelson. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.